After 25 years of waiting, Abraham, who was already 100 years old, and Sarah, who was 90 years old, finally welcomed the birth of their son Isaac, and Isaac's arrival brought them endless joy. However, when Isaac was in his teens, one day, God said to Abraham, "Take your son Isaac to Mount Moriah and offer him to me as a burnt offering." This command pierced Abraham's heart like a sharp knife. He faced the dual test of faith and love and struggled in his heart. In the end, Abraham obeyed God's will. The next morning, Abraham got up early, took Isaac and 2 servants, and began the long journey to Mount Moriah. Along the way, Abraham secretly looked at the innocent Isaac, and his heart was full of reluctance. And the birds and animals along the way also watched him and Isaac quietly. When approaching the destination, Isaac asked in confusion, "Father, there are firewood and fire here, but where is the sacrifice?" Abraham tried to control his emotions. "My son, God will provide the sacrifice himself." As they continued to move forward, the surrounding scenery gradually became desolate, with exposed rocks and tense air filled with uneasiness. When Abraham took Isaac to the top of Mount Moriah, the air seemed to freeze. The desolation and silence on the top of the mountain made every step seem particularly heavy. Abraham's fingers trembled slightly, and he could hardly hold the cold stones, but he still forced himself to start building the altar. His movements were slow and heavy, as if every stone was weighing on his heart. Isaac happily helped pick up the stones and said happily, "Father, our altar will be spectacular." Abraham's heart was torn as if it was full of fear. Abraham looked at Isaac and said hoarsely, "Isaac, slow down." How Abraham wished time could be stopped. After an unknown amount of time, the altar was built. Abraham tied Isaac up with trembling hands, and Abraham's tears flowed like a flood along with the despair and pain in his heart. "Father, why did you tie me up?" Isaac's voice was full of confusion and puzzlement, and his heart was full of doubts. Abraham swallowed all the pain, and his lips trembled slightly. "Don't be afraid, my child. God will bless us." His voice was so weak that it was almost inaudible, and the firm tone had long turned into bitter tears, and the tears flowed freely on his face. He could no longer suppress the despair and pain in his heart. At this moment, Isaac spoke softly. His voice was soft. "Father, I believe in you. God will definitely have his arrangements." Isaac's words were like warm sunshine, penetrating the deepest darkness in Abraham's heart. His tears surged even more, but he dared not look at his son again. Abraham closed his eyes, raised the knife with trembling hands, and the blade flashed coldly in the sun. At that moment, his world seemed to collapse. All the sounds disappeared, and only the heartbeat echoed in his ears. His hand slowly moved downwards, and every inch of it was like a heavy burden, as if the weight of the entire universe was pressing on him. A deafening voice came from the sky. "Abraham, Abraham, don't hurt the child." Abraham stopped suddenly. The blade stopped in mid-air. The strength in his hand was instantly drained, and he almost collapsed to the ground. He opened his tearful eyes and found a ram quietly trapped in the bushes, as if the whole world was calling him for salvation. Abraham hugged Isaac deeply, with a lot of emotion in his heart. At this moment, he understood the true love and sacrifice, and how great the power of faith is. After this test, Abraham gained a deeper understanding of faith. He always kept this sacred experience in his heart and knew that family and faith would always be the most solid strength in his life.